I struggled with that a lot, and it took me a longer time to ask for help. So I would just encourage people, if they need support, if they need help, reach out. Don't be, that there is shame to that when we are going through something messy or something painful. I was carrying a lot of shame. I was, closing myself, going through a lot of shit alone. And there is no need. Like, there's 8 billion of us, 9 or something like that on the planet. So there are many people who can support you, and it's my invitation to just, find a way to speak what you're going through, and you will see that many people resonate with that.
All right, Stay Spiritual team, James and Justin here, and we have a special guest with us, Singh, spiritual therapist, loving guide, helping people to live their most incredible lives. Welcome to the show there, Una. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It's awesome to be here, and it's awesome to just know that guys like you exist, and this kind of casual and natural talk about spiritual and deep shit. I like it. I love
it. Well, I guess maybe a good place to begin might be with letting our audience know a little bit of what your channel is actually all about.
Yeah. So, yes, it's a funny question, because essentially it's about what I feel that I should share with people. And it mostly concerns therapy and healing and spirituality. But I feel that in the future I will expand that, because I love dancing. I love to channel strange music using my voice, and I love light language. I love all of those freaky spiritual stuff. So I hope that in the future I will expand on that. But for now, it's focused on personal development, but essentially how we can reconnect with our soul, how we can master our emotions, how we can actually be those souls in the physical, but fully, completely, how to truly be these empowered, embodied souls on earth. So that's kind of the overall goal of the channel. Yeah.
Yeah. Something that I think our world kind of needs right now, right?
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it's probably been the same for every time period. We need guidance and help on stuff like that. So you're like, you have like a group of people, I guess, that you like work with, that they get in contact with you and you do like live sessions with them or stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what's that usually look like?
Well, it usually looks like deep dive individual work. So that's my favorite kind of work. I really like to go really deep with people and to help them set the foundation of their healing. Because essentially when people come to me, I notice that they are interested in spirituality, they are interested in many topics, but they literally do not know how to handle emotions, how to, truly connect with intuition, and to understand what is trauma speaking and what is intuition, what are the learned patterns, and what is truly coming from their spirit, like to make those differentiations in their life that help them live happier, easier, more abundant lives. So it's very, it's very practical, it's very earthy thing. And I love to go with people through these foundations and to kind of introduce them into how to be a human, essentially, because I believe that we have forgotten in this modern age how to truly exist in coherence with nature, in this beautiful friendship with our bodies. We forgot how to listen to our bodies, how to, work on our subconscious. We became like this on autopilot, not all of us, but kind of robotic, society that is just going through the days and coping with shit. And I'm like, okay, what is really going on? Let's see what's truly happening. So my favorite kind of work is doing with people one-on-one, and really going deep in the periods of, let's say, 3 months, 6 months, to really have these sessions that are profound and that help them transform their lives for eternity, right? And they never go back after that. And I also like group workshops. And it's been a while since I had those, and we're looking forward to expand on that and to, create more communities. But for now, it's this deep dive individual work through sessions with me, through kind of morning practice that people have, that help them connect to themselves. So it's this combination, like a programs actually, that are personalized for each and every person. So because every journey is unique, right? My journey is mine, your journey will be completely different, and we will need completely different tools. And I respect that. And I have this
Yeah.
variety of tools and methods I can use and, help people in that way. So that deep dive work is definitely my favorite. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. And you've got the testimonials on your channel too, and clearly you're helping people. One of the things you mentioned was trauma, like doing therapy through trauma, right? And I think that
Mm.
that's a very important thing these days. Like so much of everything that misunderstandings and everything that goes wrong, I'm starting to see that it's like trauma, like crazy, right? And
Mm.
there was one video where you mentioned that sometimes you'll even be wanting to uncover that trauma. Like the individual will be interested in unearthing that and dealing with it, but it's like their psyche's not even letting them see it. Is there something
Mm.
maybe you can say about if somebody's trying to work through trauma, but they're kind of at odds with themselves? There's a part of them that's like, we're not going to get into that. We're not going to really take
Mm.
a good look at that, even if they might want to. Or is that something just too dangerous to do? Like,
Mm.
do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I understand. Well, there is a beautiful technique called parts work, and you also made this videos on Teal Swan. She also uses this technique a lot. And this is one of the techniques that is done while you're fully aware, right? You don't have to go into some kind of trance or whatever. You can be fully aware and just talk through those different parts that are, fighting with each other. We have this conflict, inner conflict, and you can really let those parts speak through you. And it's very powerful. And it helps people to kind of break that ice, right? To relax a little bit, to understand that it's nothing dangerous, that it's completely safe to connect with those parts. And when those parts are at peace, how to say, we can go deeper. But essentially, when it comes to trauma, it's completely safe to connect with trauma because essentially we're living through trauma every day. It's something that is already present, right? It is just working from the subconscious and it's controlling our life, literally. So when we go into trauma to realize what is really there, we're just, let's say that you are on the sea, right? You're on the surface of the water and you're in the boat. So let's say that this is the fully conscious aware state. I'm in the boat and, I don't know what's going on down below, but I'm floating through life, something is happening. And when we're going deep inside, we're actually going to submarine and we're going to see what is really there below the surface. And that's trauma therapy. But that what's below the surface will affect you while you are in that boat, right? It's
I've
still,
I've done. Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but it's.
but go
I
on.
think it's relevant. Some of that work, that parts work, I've dabbled with that, and
Mm,
using my imagination. I don't know if like I'm just gonna say kind of what I've done in that regard,
mhm,
and I've actually like sometimes it's like starting a dialogue, and it can feel kind of funny in the beginning, right? When you're
mhm,
sort of purposely fragmenting yourself and like, all right, part of me that's engaging in this behavior that maybe I don't like, I want you to come forward, and you start a dialogue with like this other, almost like playing chess with yourself. Like, all right, you answer why this is going on and I'm
mm,
going to ask the questions, like two parts of you. And you can take that pretty far. Like I've taken it to the point where I know people do this. Sometimes they'll set up a chair in front of them and they'll actually imagine that figure with them, and it
yes.
is effective. I feel like that could be a hard sell for people, but it is effective. Obviously, there's like just so much work to be done on, there's
Mm.
so much work to be done in the end, but it's an interesting process.
Well, I also invite people to always do that with a professional when they can, because
Yeah,
when somebody else is leading you, your mind cannot interfere that much.
yeah,
You really your subconscious working. Because me as a therapist, for an example, since I was a little girl, I had this ability to feel into other people's energy and to really kind of see and feel their emotions even better than they can in that
yeah,
moment. And it was scary when I was little and I suppressed that power, right? And
Ah,
later on in life, I began to awaken it again. But essentially, if I'm there and I'm seeing the conflict in you, I can lead you to stay there and to stay there while until you resolve that. And when we let our minds go crazy, right, we can go into overthinking, we can have these different ideas, and it pulls us away from the process. Now, when we are doing deep trauma work, that's different. At first, I relax people completely. They go into this completely relaxed state because the body needs to be fully relaxed in order to do this, because subconscious is in the body. It's there in the tissues, it's there in the energy body. And when they completely relax, we do a little, some people say it's hypnotic, but actually it's going into beta or theta waves of the mental state, right? A deeper state, like you're falling into sleep, but don't fall to sleep completely, but on the edge, right? You're on the edge. So you're aware of the therapy going on. You speak with me. It's a talk therapy, a form of talk therapy. But at the same time, you get information straight from your subconscious, and you're aware of both realities, right? And you can work through them. And through this process lasts for 2, 3 hours. It depends on the topic. But in this way, people can remember the actual trauma that is stored in their body. We can go back into the memory and process what wasn't able to be processed, and therefore liberate themselves and get a new perspective. Because what trauma essentially is, let's cover that as well, because I think that people would love to hear what trauma
yeah.
actually is. Because trauma is not a traumatic event. Okay, so some people can go through a car accident, and some people will have trauma from that event, and some people won't. Because trauma essentially happens when something traumatic is happening, but person is completely feeling completely helpless, has no support, right? That person is often alone while this is happening. So the trauma is actually an inner experience of that event. It's an inner perception of what happened. I don't know if I'm speaking clearly. Can
Oh
you hear
yeah,
me?
no, no. And I just wanted to add something there. For years, I did like emergency. I was a volunteer fireman for years, and
Mm,
I found it interesting that some of the things that I would encounter in that, I didn't find them traumatizing, like the
mm,
whatever the nature of an accident or something like that. It was like I could deal with that.
yeah,
Instead, I've often found in my life like the something that might traumatize me might not be common to traumatize other people. It could be something
yeah.
like a pretty typical version of uh, just what I deem as sort of like cruel,
Mm,
like a misunderstanding where it's taken too far, and I'm like that's it like scars my psyche to think that people, some of the behaviors that people do sometimes, whereas somebody
yeah.
else is like, hey man, that's just how it is, like
Mm-hmm.
not
Yeah.
so bothered by that type of thing. So I think
Yeah.
people get traumatized in different ways. That's maybe one of the
Mm,
biggest bridges to gap is like understanding that things affect people differently, if that makes
mm.
sense.
Yes, and it's completely unique. It's completely unique. For an example, for me, the biggest trauma for me was emotional neglect while I was a child. And imagine that you're having trauma throughout your childhood. So we have this layers upon layer upon layer because emotional neglect happened day after day. And day
Yeah.
after day, I was traumatized again and again and again. So usually people that come to me have similar complex trauma, right? And it's
Yeah.
not easy to work through that, but it's definitely possible, because there is something that is called root trauma. And that trauma is mutual for the entire collective, for the entire human family. And for example, that's trauma of abandonment, that's the trauma of hopelessness, that's the trauma of being disconnected from God, from source, from life, right?
Loss of
Feeling
control,
like
maybe, or the feeling
loss of
of.
control, definitely. Yes, it's a part of that. And when we have those, when we are working, I notice that there are some patterns that are common for all of us, and we are not aware of that. But that's
Yeah.
good news actually, because then we can help each other. Then I can feel into you, I can relate to you easily. And that for me is the most important part of trauma work, like that
Uh,
compassion. If there is no compassion, if I'm not accepting the person fully, if I'm not being completely non-judgmental, like completely, then trauma work is not that deep and it won't be that effective. Like that compassion is actually what does the healing. That is the sacred spice, really.
I'm curious. You've done probably like a lot of work with people. What do you see as like some of the major reasons why people are suppressing their emotions? They're bottling this all up, and it's becoming this big issue
Mm.
inside of them, right?
Yeah.
They can't contain it anymore.
Hmm. That's definitely the fear that when they dive deep and face that pain, that it will be unbearable. But what I tell people is, again, you're living with the trauma every day. It's
Yeah.
nothing new. And
Yeah.
when you go into therapy, you have an opportunity to bring light to it and to see what it truly is and to resolve it. But that moment when they are facing that trauma, it is uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie, right? That is this moment where you are stepping into that cave you've been avoiding to step in, and that cave is right beside you all the
Yeah.
time, and it's full of bats, and it's it's scary. But that first step is the most difficult one. Everything that comes afterwards is easier because when we do trauma healing, what happens is instant relief. What happens is that you feel that inner control again because you start to love those darkest parts of you, and that love begins to work through you, and you expand your perception and you realize, oh, that's why I was doing all those shit, that's why I was right getting into toxic relationship, that's why I was choosing the worst job for myself, that's why I was in depression, that's why they get these answers. And that's the most valuable thing, right? When you have the answers, when you have the widened perception, everything becomes easier, right? Because you're conscious,
Yeah.
you're aware of what's going on. So I believe that people are scared of that unknown. They have been hearing a lot of stories, perhaps, I will be honest, about bad therapists. I mean, there are very bad therapists in this world. There are therapists that didn't do their inner work, and
Yeah.
that's dangerous. It really is. Like if
Yeah.
I wasn't doing my inner work, I wouldn't have the capacity to help people go through their own trauma. It's just natural, right? It's just having a Sherpas, right? You're having a Sherpas when you're climbing on Mount Everest. And that person went through that path a million times. And it's like the person that knows every single stone. And you are doing that journey of just like people in therapy, they are making the steps forward, they are climbing their mountain. But I'm right by their side and I've been there, right? I've
Yeah.
been there. I know how it goes because I've been there, not because I read 1,000 books and I have 1,000 certificates. That's bullshit. That really doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
Really. You
Yeah.
know, I also have a certificate. I also have a million courses, but I have that experience and that's crucial.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's scary in the beginning. It's scary because you hear a lot of things that are really just sloppy therapy, you know, and you get these misconceptions about all of it. But what it essentially is an opportunity for you to fully love yourself. Because if
Yeah.
you do not love those dark parts of yourself, it's not complete love. It's not unconditional. It's not full.
When you
You're
talk
missing on it.
when you talk about accepting those dark parts of yourself, so to me, there's this concept I've been pondering a lot about lately, which is like radical acceptance, which is
Mm,
and I'm not a licensed, I'm not like the one that's going to do what you do, which is to take the person
yeah.
on the journey, provide a safe space. I think there's a huge need for what you're doing. But one of the things I've kind of practiced is the idea of radical acceptance at times. It's a busy world. We all get caught up in different
Mm,
things. But when there is a time to actually give myself a moment to practice radical acceptance, it seems like it does, you have to almost radically accept things to get to the point where you're able to accept those dark parts of yourself. And it's pretty
mm,
amazing what can happen, because you might get to a place one day where you can really forgive people, where you can even begin to understand things from a different perspective, where you even see some of the things that were perpetrated against you as actually love in a way. You know what I mean? That sounds
mm.
really out there. I'm not going to go on too much about it, but
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like you talk on your channel and you've got some ridiculously powerful messages. I invite everybody, encourage them to go check out your channel. but you've got some messages that really get into like love, and you communicate that idea very well, right? And that the universe has actually got your back, and that you're actually being guided through this experience, right? But like again, I guess I'm just trying to talk about a little bit here is the idea of radical acceptance. Getting to the point where you can. Can you accept this or not? Are you in resistance? Are you living from a place of resisting everything? Or are you actually letting yourself be taught and letting yourself learn and get to that, that kind of peaceful place?
Yes, and what people get confused with is, for an example, people come with me with severe depression, for an example, and they say, but what if I accept myself? Am I then accepting the depression and it's going to stay with me forever? It's this logic of if I accept something, it's going to stick there, right? It's going to be there. But there is a part of love, self-love, that we are missing. We are forgetting to mention, and it's responsibility. And when you are responsible for yourself and you come into this space with, I love myself and I'm responsible and I am going to improve. And if I accept something, that is the first step of my improvement, of my healing. It's not the end, But if I don't accept it, again, you beautifully said this, I'm going to be in resistance. I'm going to keep fighting with this part of myself or this trauma or whatever. And it just perpetuates the misery. It's just, it's a never ending story. And as I accept it, it doesn't mean that I'm saying, oh, it's going to be here forever. But again, if it remains here forever, I'm going to be okay with that. And again, that's healing.
How can you accept the good things if you're busy in resistance to all your trauma? You know what I mean? Like I'm not claiming to have it all together. We've got people like you. How do I say this? One thing I've just noticed from my imperfect place is that how can you accept the good things that the universe is providing for you if you're tied up resisting and battling your own trauma? It's like, it seems very important to actually do that healing work.
Yes, you said that beautifully. And essentially, as you accept, again, you are getting the opportunity to resolve that. For example, let's say that I have a broken leg, but I refuse to accept that. I mean, when you put it like that, it sounds insane. Like, how can you? It's there. But we do that with emotional traumas every single day. It's like, I feel this emptiness in my chest. I feel that there is no point. And I'm refusing to accept that. I'm saying I'm fine. It's okay. No, it's good. Life goes on. Whatever. It is like, sentences like when people say to me, I'm fine, everything is okay. Oh, we're about to have a lot of work here.
You hate that. You hate. Oh yeah. Well, because I guess I'm kind of like, I'm pretty sensitive of a person, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm a bit of a raw nerve, and it's like traumatizing for me if somebody's visibly upset and they're like, "Oh, everything's fine." I'm like, like I don't know.
Yeah, it can happen. I used to be like that before, but now I just feel more compassion. I'm like, okay, there's a lot of pain there. If I hear that, it means there's a lot of pain, and we will take one step at a time. That's why I do these things, these programs where we are doing for 3 months, for 6 months, we're working together, right? It's a long period of time because sometimes that's needed, like small steps. Let's start with talking. Let's go into small practices and exercise. Then we will go into deep trauma therapy when the time comes. Like, we're not rushing anything. And I believe that it's important for people to know there are therapists. I'm one of them, but there are many of us in this world. They're not going to rush you. We are not going to push you into anything you're not ready for. But we know the tools how to gently lead you to go deep inside, right? How to gently prepare you, to prepare your body. The body has to be prepared. For an example, if your body is full of junk, if your body is full of toxins, full of parasites, full of I don't know what, it will be very difficult for you to do trauma therapy, deep trauma therapy. Because imagine that you have a vessel and that vessel is literally dirty. You want to put pure water into that awareness. Doesn't go like that, right?
So you're talking about kind of like a holistic practice too. You're not just dealing with like the inner emotional spiritual stuff. You're also talking about taking care of your physical body
like
Definitely.
proper diet and practices. I was going to ask you, like, for our audience at home, like, say you're more secluded and you want to start some, spiritual journey, like a practice, you want to start some
Mm,
healing. What are like some simple tools? Like, what would you recommend for someone who maybe feel like they're all alone? Like, try
mm,
these, try a couple of these steps, when you're
mm.
by yourself or something
Yeah.
like that.
Well, again, I will definitely start from the body first. I will
Yeah.
definitely start there because the body needs the most time to heal. That's the first thing. Because when we have, let's say, let's go back to the basics. Everything is energy. You know that. We know that. And what body is, what matter is just a dense energy. It's just energy that is vibrating in a certain frequency that is creating matter. That's all it is. And when we want to work on this subtle, this gentle, these etheric realms like emotions, energetic body, our subconsciousness, our intuition, we need to prepare what's dense first. So I would say to those people, like literally, be mindful of what you are eating, be mindful of what you are digesting every day when it comes to information, when it comes to, different drinks, when it comes to food. Like, pay attention to your environment. Where are you living? If you're living in this chaotic, traumatic environment, but everything is just dirty, chaotic, do your best to first move into the
Mm,
space that is a little bit healthier. And then you can go deep dive into your subconscious. Because what people do while they're in this chaos, let's say that have toxic family members, that they're living in this very toxic environment when it comes to physical stuff, and they go deep dive into themselves, it can become really messy, to be honest. They can have this kind of psychosis episode. They can have this kind of very confusing states they're getting in. And I'm like,
yeah.
of course this is going to happen. Like, of course.
Even
So my
somebody's
my
healing
yeah.
from, if the environment is screwed up enough, then maybe even someone healing can appear to the toxified people as like, what are you, this
Mm,
person's gone off the rails, they quit their job, they changed their, they're doing all this stuff, they're on
mm,
this spiritual kick, you know what I mean? Not to take it to a negative place, it's just
mm,
sometimes it seems like you're up against reality rather than it, you know,
mm,
and to get into the path of healing and going the right trajectory is, like, people that would be toxifying their body, that's them trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Maybe if I put more, I'm surrounded by toxicity. Maybe if I put gummy bears in, that'll fix it. Or,
mm,
or and society at large is at a certain place, right? So,
mm,
um, I guess like he was saying, somebody might feel alone and do some of these steps, but sometimes the person's not alone. They're out in the world and they're interacting with people and they're like, I feel like I'm being gaslit here. Like I'm trying to get right or seek truth. And
mm.
people not interested in truth around me, like far as though I can see, it seems that I don't find that. How can a
Yeah.
person like that? What are they to do?
Mm. Well, I know what I did. And when I started my own journey, I was in a very toxic environment. It was highly unsupportive people around me. They were, I cannot say that they weren't into spirituality. They were so far away from anything spiritual. It's like in a completely different country. But what I did was I found this one safe person I can talk to. It was literally just one person that was just there to hear me out. And this was the very beginning. It was a woman that was a lot older than me. We were completely different areas of interest. But she was like there for this motherly figure to me, like one safe person I could just open up to. And if that didn't work, and there were times when I couldn't see her, I found this online communities, free groups on, let's say, Facebook, etc. There were people meet that they have some kind of a challenge. They're supporting each other, encouraging each other, maybe sharing some practices. And to be honest, I kept that as a secret back then, because if I said anything like that to people who were around me back then, they would send me into a loony house. They were like, okay, she's gone mad, she's crazy, let's just remove her. So
Yeah.
that's again dangerous thing to do. So essentially what I can say is really there are people in this world. There are people, you can have a free consultation with me. I do free consultations all the time because I'm there to just support people and chat with them and just be there. And of course, I have my paid programs. I know I live from this and I love doing that. But essentially, there are people who can just be there for you. So start small. Start with this one little blog that you will anonymously create and just write what you're going through. And people will be there and comment. And, this exchange starts. And the important thing here is not to feel alone. Because if you enter this and loneliness, I don't know who said that recently, but loneliness is the real pandemic in this world. Like people are so lonely. They're so alone in
and
their
unconnected.
misery.
They got their faces buried in phones and tablets and. But even if even if it's not a matter of being buried in a phone, I think finding the person like you found, like I've heard that story before where I found one person that understood what was going on, and then that was enough to project them forward, right? Sometimes I think, the loneliness can come from, like, you could be in a group of people and feel alone, because there's maybe a lack of authenticity or something. Like, I don't want to get together and compare whose life is best. Like, I don't want to get together and something like that. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah. So start there. Start there, definitely. If you're going through a rough time, just, see, a diary helps as well because just journaling. For me, that was also life-saving at some point. If I don't have those people, around me, that if I cannot connect, then maybe just, to have this little safe space. And I used to lock my journals. I used to hide them. You find your way to go through that phase. But as you heal, you will find people who are like-minded. You will find people who are compassionate, and they will arrive miraculously into your life in many ways. But in this first stage, really just find someone who's compassionate, who's able to listen to you, literally. Just listen. That's enough. Yeah.
So, Una, you've talked a little bit about your journey, but I'm curious about knowing like a little bit more how, did it begin with that person that you felt comfortable with, that you were like, this is something I want to do, like I relate to this, and is that, did you feel drawn to help others, after, healing your own self?
Well, I was always interested in paranormal and the supernatural stuff and the cosmos and aliens. That was since I was little. That attracted me. So then, when I was in puberty and adolescence, I got really scared. I didn't know how to work with my intuition. It was highly strong. It is still, but I was confused. I didn't have any tools. How can I use this? I'm going mad, or what's going on? So I think that many people can relate to this, and I just suppressed all of that. So then I got into dreams and thinking about lucid dreaming, how it works, how you can stay aware while you're dreaming, use your dreams for your development, etc. And that was my early 20s, and I started coming back into that, expansion again. But I started working with people accidentally, though it's not accidental, of course. But essentially, as I was saying, I was going through my own healing and I was writing about it on social media. I had my posts where I will literally just write about my experiences. As I discovered some of my trauma, it was very superficial at the time, but I was just discovering it and sharing everything I was going through. I mean, not everything, but, the most important parts with my small community. And suddenly people started, gathering around me, and I had like a couple of thousands, people that were there and communicating, etc. And suddenly I became this blogger or whatever, but I didn't have that intention. And people started literally coming to me and saying, I would pay you just to talk with you. I would pay to just speak with you and just share what's going on because I feel that you can understand me and help me out. And I was like, but I'm not a coach. I'm not a therapist. Back then I wasn't, that's not what I'm doing. I was in marketing. I was a musician before that. I completed musical academy. I was doing different stuff. And I was like, and I was feeling a little bit repulsed because I have hearing about those coaches that are very superficial, that are just talking, think happy thoughts, those sort of things. And I was like, I don't want to be that. I don't want to do that. but
Yeah.
people kept coming to me, and they literally asked me to come into this. And then I started working, and I realized, oh, I'm helping. This is working. Like they had their breakthroughs, they made changes, they started their own businesses that were soul led. They got out of toxic relationships. They changed their attitudes, and I was like, okay, it's something here. Something is going on.
Feels
So
good to
slowly,
help
then,
people. Sorry.
yes,
I,
yes,
I,
yes.
I just like, sometimes because of any wounds that I've been able to heal,
Mm,
somebody, I'll be in a conversation with them and then they'll have a similar issue. And I'm like, hey, I can actually help you with that. I found
yeah,
this works. And then one thing I found is sometimes they'll be like, hey, can we get together and like us like really get into it and help me? I'm like, I'm not like a qualified anything. I'm just trying to not suffer. You know what I mean? And
yeah.
it just seems like the universe really paved a way for you here. Everybody's got different things that they're sort of meant to do anyway, right? And so
Mm,
you seem very suitable to the type of work that you're doing.
mm.
I'd like to know. I'd even like to know more about like how could people get involved with the work that you do. Like if somebody wanted to do therapy with you, how would they go about
Yeah.
that?
Well, the best way is to schedule that call with me. Actually, I have a little questionnaire that people fill in, like a little quiz that helps me see if we are a match, because there are some things that I cannot help with. Like we all have our field, right, of expertise. And for an example, when it comes to deep psychosis, when it comes to schizophrenia, when it comes to these really heavy, states, I can, of course, have a chat, but I'm not educated for now to help with those. And essentially, this just helps me to get to know the person. And because I'm pretty aligned with my mission here on Earth, people that come to me, they are resonating with me. I can help them in some way. So that's the first part, and that's the easiest way to just fill that out. It takes 5 minutes, just answer some general questions about yourself, and then we get on a free call. And during that free call, we explore different possibilities. I see if the person maybe wants to, have just 1 or 2 sessions, or maybe they're interested in this long-term work. It depends. But that's the way I like to, again, work, because everyone is unique. If I have a certain plan, and I tried that to have, like, I have this program and this is the package and here you go, it's pretty strict, and people like, no, no, because this journey is really so personalized, it's so unique. So that's the best way, really, through talking, through like we are doing now, just exploring, their life, what they're struggling with. And I have this opportunity to see, can I help? How can I help? What are the methods? What are the techniques? Because again, through my own healing, I've discovered a lot of different techniques. And, regression therapy is the main one, but it's not the only one I'm using. So in this way, we can see, maybe they need, I don't know, human design, for example. It's a beautiful way to understand yourself. Maybe they just need to come back to that authenticity. Maybe they need deep trauma therapy. Maybe they need parts work. Maybe they need something else. Maybe they need guided meditations to just have a routine. It just depends on a person. So that quiz and that call, that is the best way to move forward.
And they can find that information on your YouTube channel. Is that the main avenue that you take? Well, you've got your own website too, right? Like a link to your
right.
website that you can.
Yeah, it's on the YouTube, it's on the website, it's on my Instagram, Rise with Una. It's also there. So essentially, any of those avenues are fine. And I'm
Yeah.
always happy to meet new people. That's so exciting, and it's so, it's so beautiful, really.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There's a few subjects on your YouTube channel that you're talking about that I'm very fascinated with. I find when I'm
Mhm.
talking with like spiritual practitioners and stuff like that, belief systems and terminology that they use, it can change, and I'm fascinated with it. I'm open-minded. I don't judge any of it. I'm more curious.
Mm.
I just want to know about it. Um, and one of them was you had you had mentioned, and I texted you about galactic families and stuff like that. I'm so fascinated in all that stuff. I want to know about it. What is it? What are you talking about? What is it?
Yes. So we have, as you know, many pasts and we have many futures. And it's everything, if you know about quantum field, happening at the same time. So we can access the journey of our soul. And what soul is essentially is this clear frequency that is unique to ourselves. And that frequency, that soul, right, that soul essence, it is traveling through time and space. It changed its shapes. It was everywhere and it is everywhere in a way. So galactic families for me are those families of souls, are close souls that we are intimate with, but they are not on the earth. They're not in this, this physical state. They're free from that, but they still exist and they exist in different star systems. And we are connected to them. Some people are drawn to, I don't know, Sirius. Some people are drawn to Andromeda. Some people are drawn. There are different, families. But essentially, as we connect with them, we have this sense of deep familiarity. It's like really, it's family, and we can communicate with them telepathically. We can communicate through meditation. We can just set the intention. I want to meet my galactic family, and they will appear in one shape or form. So what's interesting here is they do not have this biological way of reproduction that we have here on Earth. And therefore you can have about 1 million family members. You can have like a lot of souls that are connected to you, and you feel this deep intimacy with them, this deep remembrance. Like I know you, I know your essence, and they can help you out. They can guide you. They can encourage you. There are many ways. They can transfer some knowledge as well. There are many forms in which you can communicate, but essentially you're not limited to just, father, mother, children, that's it. But you have this entire, they have this plethora of souls that can support you. And usually they come in the form of spirit guides. That's the most common, way. But for me, they assisted me in some healing processes. That's how I, understood that they exist. I just, they came to me and they helped me to process some stuffed energy in my body, some trauma. They helped me get the awareness of how trauma works, what it truly is. How can I then help other people? And
Wow.
I believe in a way that they are somehow with me as I do therapies. They are here like assistants that you cannot see, because there's some information about the client that I cannot know mentally. Like I don't have that. They never told me that. And through the regression therapy, I just see myself, talking. And they're like, what do you think about, I don't know, what do you remember about the yellow jacket, for an example? And they didn't mention in the conversation. And while we are in therapy, they're like, my favorite jacket from my childhood was yellow, and there's a story to it. And they start to go deep dive and they realize it's part of their trauma. So I have
Wow.
this little kind of assistance, and I believe it's my higher self and my soul, of course, and the
Yeah.
essence of God, the source. But galactic families are very interesting. But again, do not connect with them if you're not grounded. You remember that video of mine where I
Yes.
talked about that, because you can really get lost, and people get lost, meaning that they lose touch with reality, with this reality.
Mm.
And we are here to experience this reality primarily while we are here, right? To
Yeah.
understand the body, to understand other people. And they get lost because, again, the feeling is so beautiful. Imagine that you are meeting 1 million of your closest souls. I mean, that's powerful,
That love
Yeah.
you and care about you
Yes,
too. It sounds
yes,
amazing.
Yeah, I've heard it explained. Remember when we had Peter from 434? He was saying that there's like a group
yes.
of people that, like, even when you pass away or something like that, you kind of are all hanging out together. You are like a thing that.
Yeah.
So is it like a reincarnating soul body that keeps, traveling through infinite time, kind of together? Is that what's happening?
Mhm. Well, it can be, but essentially there are some of them who are not incarnated, like do not, they didn't have the physical experience. They are just spirits, they're just souls, they are free. But there are some that can be in a human form, that you have, let's say, past lives that you spent together or something like that. So there are many, many scenarios, but essentially, as you know about dimensions, we are here, our parts of our soul are here in the body, but the part of our soul is completely free all the time. and is existing in the fourth and fifth dimension, etc., and is completely free of time and space. It's in the quantum. So in that sense, you are always with your galactic families. You are always connected with your ancestors. There is this realm, the level of consciousness where you are connected with all of those souls all of the time. And while we are in the body, we have this limited portion of that. And that's good. I mean, that's again for a reason, because if we knew how connected we were, we wouldn't just be here. We would just, evaporate. We wouldn't have this experience that is the experience of contrast, the challenges, but we need all of that in order
It's good
to
to have
grow.
intermediaries though that understand this stuff, because maybe this could lead to actually some like identity issues, when you're like, I feel like I'm this other thing as well. And, especially when you take into account like, Akashic record type thinking, or that there's parts of your soul that are like in other areas, or I don't know why I identify with this thing that has got nothing to do with my physical body. Maybe it's helpful to have people that have more insight to this sort of thing, sort of like you do.
Yes, yeah, I have this little story to share. When I was 4 years old, so I was very little. My mother had this big book about Sirius, and there is an African tribe called, I think, Dogons. I said, yeah, Dogon on Serbian. So they were very connected to Sirius, and they had this elaborate maps of the sky and how Sirius A and Sirius B are positioned, and have all of these drawings and explanations. And they were really the tribe that said, we come from there. This is our home. And I used to read that. Of course, I was 4 years old. I couldn't read, but I just wanted my mother to talk to me about that. And as she talked, I knew what they were talking about. And I had these moments when I would explain to her, and she would turn the page and see that explanation in the book. And she was like, how do you know all of that? And when people started talking to me, I was very protective about Sirius, almost like patriotic sense. Like they say, there is no such thing. Like, oh, how can you say that? It was like this small creature that was extremely connected to all of that. And later on, I understood about galactic families and how they work. And like, oh, okay, I do have that connection. But in a way, my soul was everywhere, is everywhere. So I have deeper connection with that realm and that galactic family. But essentially, if you go deep enough, you will understand that you have connection to everything and everyone, because you are source in this smaller version, how to say. And you are everywhere and you are everything all of the time. And that can be mind-blowing, and again, that can pull people away from reality. But again, as you said, it was soothing to me to know that, okay, there is truth in this, that's what's going on. Many tools and many gifts that I have that I use when I work with people come from Sirius. I used to do that many lifetimes there, and I just brought it into the earth. And many people have those gifts and they have no clue. So when you realize how to actually use all of that while you're in the body, while you're here, that's so powerful. And you're never alone, literally, in a good sense. Like you're supported, right? You're loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You mentioned source. Is that like, maybe go a little bit more into that? What do you mean by when you're talking about source?
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, it's a little bit, it's my own individual perspective, and people have their own. But when I say source, I say what usually people call God. But because I know that God is both masculine and feminine, all of the energies all at once, it's easier for me to say the source. It's easier for me to get into this neutral. But essentially, it's like, it's not a place. It's consciousness, a form of consciousness that is in constant creation. It's in this constant expansion and creation, and literally everything that we know, everything that we are, came from there, and is coming back to that, to that consciousness. So when I talk about that, I really talk about everything, like that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once. If I don't know if you watched it, if you didn't watch it, watch it. It's amazing.
It is.
So for me, it's that, and it's a little bit scary when you start to, get to know source and what it truly is. But essentially, it's everywhere, it's everything, so it's familiar. It's
Things
just so
get
expansive.
yeah,
Hmm.
and the more you kind of open yourself up to this sort of thing, uh, things can get quite mystical. Weird synchronicities can start to happen. You can start to meet people that you're like, I can't believe I just like met this person that it like
Mm.
couldn't even speak English, but had magically was able to turn to me and go, I don't speak any English. I'm thinking of a particular story that I'm not going to get into, but yeah, things can get quite interesting and
Mm.
magical the more you open up yourself to this. But it does seem like there's layers, right? Like there's this very
Mm.
grounded layer, and then there's a layer of consciousness you might become aware of where you can actually get a pretty real sense of these galactic family type area, and then all the way to source, all the way to like the complete unity place. And that some people,
Mm.
maybe more than others, obviously can see all these different, almost like interdimensional vision or
Mhm.
awareness, right?
Yeah.
I feel like 10 years ago, we would have had a harder time even having this discussion. I feel like
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
it's opening up now and more people are feeling, okay about talking about it.
Mm.
Because
And that's
it
so good.
does, on the surface level, it probably comes off as a little woo-woo and people are like, they think it's weird, right? But I think
I don't
people...
care anymore.
I know. I think more and more people are opening up and being able to have these conversations. It's not like I have to believe exactly everything that you believe, but we can still talk
Mhm.
about it.
Yeah, man.
It's good to see people turn on, Like there's people that I knew when I was a kid and we were just dumb idiots partying together, and then you lose touch and then you find them later in life and they're like a spiritual person, and you're like, this is awesome,
Mm.
It's good to see more of that. Do you think that there's more people actually getting into this
Mm.
sort of thing, like this way of looking at it, like entertaining these sort of woo-woo ideas more now than ever? Or
Oh, definitely, definitely, because we understood that we are all spiritual and that everything is spiritual. And, when we die, what happens? Our spirit leaves our body, and we are not officially dead until that happens. And there is this scientific proofs of how that happens, like the soul is weighing, I don't know, 28 grams or something like that. So they measure how it happens. And now we have quantum machines that you can actually see where the soul body is, how the energy body works. When we have quantum physics, I believe that it's the most rational people can understand this woo-woo stuff better and understand like, oh, it's all there, it's all here, and it was here all the time. Like now we can measure it. So now my ego, my mind can, come into this peaceful state of like, oh, I can measure it. Awesome.
yeah.
So for an example, in regression therapy, what we do, my mentor used to do that. She used to scan people with the quantum machine, and they could see the aura, the energetic field of the human, and they can see this kind of, like dark clouds around the person or inside of the person. And then they would do aggression therapy that also has an energetic part to it, energetic clearing at the end. And afterwards, they will again, record the person with that quantum machine, and some of those will stay, but the most part was clear. Like the most part,
Wow.
you can see that the color changed, that this textures changed, and they did that with hundreds and hundreds of clients, hundreds of people, and the result was always similar. Like there was always this transformation, this change that happens, and it was visible, it was recordable. So it's beautiful that now we can do that, and the science is a little bit late because these are the knowledge that we had for millennia, and that ancient people just knew. They just, yeah, they were okay with that, and they were closer to nature. But now it's good that again, machines and technology, they can, come closer to the truth and see, okay, so this is the proof. And it's so beautiful because people are also questioning the system now more and more, and understanding like, oh, I have everything, and why do I feel like I have nothing? Why do I feel so empty? Why am I miserable? Like I have
Yeah.
everything in material sense.
Yeah.
And they are
Let's at least
confused.
admit that that's happening.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean? Like
yeah.
it's
Yes, it's
that's
real.
again one of the unsettling things is when people pretending like it's not happening. Like it's detrimental for everybody to pretend like everything's okay when it isn't. Like that's a sore spot for me, you know? It's like at least if we could admit that it is possible to collect a lot of things and still be like, it didn't scratch that itch, you know? Like I'm not. It feels like after COVID, that kind of unleashed that in everyone. Everyone started to realize and see things from a different perspective. If that's the right way to put it. And people just, I don't know, it rattled the cage so much now that a lot of people who we talked about this not too long ago, where people had worked their whole lives, saved up, they've worked every day so hard, never really taking care of their inner self. They're, just trying to, accumulate materialism, and then gone. It's all gone now. And the money's running out, and people are like, well, now what? It's like, I'm 50 now. I'm not going to go do what I just did for the last 25 years to amass everything that I just have. So what's next? Right?
Yes. So. And it's good news, because you said that, not everyone is waking up, and there are some people who are still in denial. But it's comforting to know that everything you do, like everything I do individually, everything that you do with this podcast, with yourselves, right, with your own expansion, it affects the collective. It has to, because you are the part of the collective. And again, everything is interconnected. We cannot disconnect fully, no matter how alone we feel. Or how
as above, so below, right?
Yes, and we are all in this together, really. And when you do healing, you also do transgenerational healing, and it happens automatically. Because when you heal something, you heal that something, that trauma, that pattern in your entire lineage. And it spreads to your ancestors, it spreads to your future generations, it affects your entire community. That's how healing works. So this is a little encouragement for everyone that are doing the healing work and sometimes feel that it is futile and, oh my God, what am I doing? And where are the results and what's going on? You're doing this great thing for the entire collective, even if you are not aware of it.
We're figuring it out. Humanity's figuring it out one step at a time, right?
That's right. I'm impatient. I like them like, let's go, come on.
So this is good news for you as well, because everything you do has an effect, don't worry.
I've noticed, just to kind of like make a shift here, I noticed you do a lot of tarot reading stuff on your channel. How did, first of all, how did you get into it, and how does it work?
Yes. Well, for me, speaking through cards, that's just a tool to connect to the subconscious. Because when we have symbols, and cards usually have powerful symbols in them, and symbols carry energy and carry energetic information, they can connect us to the subconscious very, very easily. It's like I let myself just be led intuitively, and I just hear words speaking through me. I'm not the one who's speaking, but essentially my spirit, my intuition is speaking through me. So we can use cards for that. Some people use, I don't know, type of dice. Some people just get into channeling, just get into small meditation and start to channel verbally. So there are different tools, and cards is just one of those tools. And they have been used, I don't know, from Middle Ages for sure, maybe even earlier, by humans in different cultures. But essentially, yes, Nordic cultures use the runes. I love the runes as well, the Celtic runes. They are so powerful.
Are those like little rocks that you drop or whatever? No.
Essentially, they're again symbols. Some people say they are archetypes. They are carrying certain archetypal energies in them. And as we have cave people that try to, put the picture that expresses something about life, in the same way, we are always trying to express universe, express nature through something. And these symbols are very powerful. And as I read them, again, I just sense that messages are coming through me. And again, that is not governed by the mind. It is something that is just flowing. And I believe that it is connection with the collective subconscious. Many people like Carl Jung that, popularized this. But of course, we knew about collective subconscious way before that. And this is the way to connect to that field. and to draw relevant information for that moment. So if you watch, let's say, my reading from 6 months ago, I don't know, but if you find it now and it draws your attention now, it is relevant to you right now.
That
Because
did
again,
that did happen for me.
yeah,
There was a couple of them that I was like, it was too on point for me to like accept, you know. Especially one where you were kind of talking about family, like inherited trauma, and you know you're carrying all this, like it's in your gut or something like that. I was like, like it just seemed really on point. But then I was thinking, you know, like, well, okay, so this is true for like a bunch of people. It's got to be. It's not, can't just be, you know, one person's thing, right? James here.
I've
actually
meddled with some tarot cards.
has done some tarot card, and I always thought it was so fascinating. He was good at it. Like that's how we kind of got started. His first Twitch streams were tarot card readings, and people were like, "You helped me so much, thank you." It was interesting, right?
Yes, yeah. For me, I feel like you kind of, it was more of like a intuitive, but also like I see it as a tool, like you said, a tool that has symbols, and the cards have meanings, right? So basically, you know, you have all that already there for you, and then you encounter someone who tells you something, or you know, you're intuitively going off of everything that you've gathered from the meanings to the person you're talking with, and you know, it doesn't seem to me that crazy of a thing. And like you said, I think it's there to like unlock, you know, bring to mind maybe something that you haven't been thinking about for a long time, right? So,
But careful, I guess careful who you get the, you know, the proof is in the pudding. You know, at the beginning you said that there's some bad everything. There's bad doctors, there's bad therapists, there's, you know, so, but sometimes you resonate with somebody, and then that it's just a good match, and it works, right? So again, going back to the testimonials you have on your channel, it looks like there's some people helping, and I sure as heck I shared one of the videos I saw where you were essentially doing a meditation about just getting into that place of like, you're almost like breathing in love, like you're fully aware of how much the universe has done to get you to where you are, and it cares about you, and it was like ridiculously powerful. And so I shared that one, and but back to making sense and being on point with tarot, you know, maybe some people are just a good match, you know, like maybe you're working with intuition and you're able to help somebody and it's really hitting. And then sometimes it's like, you know, you got to give it a try. I guess you got to be brave enough to try it to see what the benefits of it are. And then the proof's in the pudding, you know, whether or not it works.
That's inviting you. Like cards were inviting me before, but again, I had this repulsion towards them because again, I was listening to those tarot readers that are full of predictions, like on this and that date you will meet that person and this and that will happen, and all. I don't want to be that again. You see those examples and you just, but again, they were inviting me, and they were always somewhere around me, and my friends brought them, and at one point I started working with them, and I realized, okay, I can use them to make this bridge for people between their minds, their awareness, and their soul, their intuition. And that's all that it is, really. It's just a bridge, helping you to reconnect with yourself in a way. And that's why you hear those things and they resonate. And they're like, oh, yes, this is me. And sometimes that's not the case, and that's fine. That's completely okay. But this is like a tool you can really play with. But when it comes to those predictions, again, I will invite people to be careful with that. Because when we are stuck to this one timeline and one possibility, again, we get disconnected from the present, and the present is the most important. Like when we are in present, we are in power. We are, right, we are here. We can make decisions from the present. We cannot make decisions from the past or future. Like I'm making a decision now, and it redirects my life. So people, again, can get really stuck on that. Yeah.
It's amazing. Sometimes you'll be like trying to just make the point of like, hey, like the past isn't now, like the past doesn't exist right now, and the future's yet to happen. Like really all there is the present. And sometimes people will be like resistant to that. Like, no,
Nope.
like they don't want to be in the present or something. Like, no, I'm gonna ruminate over the past. I'm gonna live there, or I'm gonna project into the future what I want. And it's like everything's happening right here. Like this is where it's at. There's you're kind of trapped in the present in a way. But
Sounds scary, but
yeah,
it's wonderful.
but it's not though, right? Now, Una, the look, obviously, spiritual channel, everything like that. We've had an array of guests on here, and one question I kind of like to ask our guests is like being a part of the spiritual community and stuff like that. I'm curious about kind of like maybe a metaphysical experience, like for you, but I don't like. Just feel comfortable. Like you only have to share what you want to share. But like in terms of like metaphysical experiences and stuff like that, I'm really fascinated with that type of stuff. I know you are too. Like for you, what has been like on this journey the most like awe, like wow moment for you?
Well, there are many. There are many. But the one that is particularly pleasant and beautiful for me was the reconnection with my ancestors. It was very vivid. It was when I was exploring my mother's wound and essentially the wound that we all women carry in ourselves. And I was going through my own healing process. And at one moment, uh, I was in meditation and I looked, in front of me and I saw this long row, this endless row of my female ancestors. And they were just in this line, and I'm still having this wonderful tingling feeling when I remember that. And they were so loving, so supportive. They were so here. And again, it was so vivid. It was real. And later on, I explored that a little bit and I understood that genes are information, right? And we have the information about our ancestors and everything that happened to them in our body all of the time. It is there because it's literally transferred through genes. And so they were so present. They were so vivid. I could almost, see their faces, their facial expressions. It was a little bit scary because every moment like that is a little bit scary as well. But I felt all of that love that we already mentioned.
Yeah.
And I felt that they were just there for me and saying, everything, my child, everything is going to be fine. We're here for you. Thank you for doing this for us as well. And it was very, very powerful. But my first experience that was metaphysical, it was unexplainable, was having a vision. I was 9 years old,
Cool.
and I was sitting on the window and just, looking at the sky, looking at the trees. I was just relaxing. And this was the first time that I was separated from my mother for a couple of days. She was my main caretaker. We were always together, and now she went on traveling on a journey, and we were away. We were in different countries. And I was just sitting and just, minding my own business. And suddenly I have the scene in front of my eyes, very vivid, of her sitting on the bed with floral, this covers, floral covers. And she was looking out of the window that had wooden, these wooden pieces that were very, very traditional, very old, very strange for today's architecture. And I just saw her like that. One leg was crossed, another one was on the floor. It was very vivid. And she came back from her travels. And I told her about that, and her face went white. She was terrified. And she said, "Could you please just explain that scene again?" And essentially what happened, I somehow astrally projected myself, and I was with there in the room. She was sitting in the hotel room, which was older hotel, that had those strange wooden, things on the windows, that strange flora. And she was sitting by the window thinking about me in that exact same position, in that exact same dress, in that exact same moment. And she just stood there and she was like, "Okay, I don't know. My kid is crazy, but this is wonderful."
So that answers that. Astral projection is real. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it was like a millisecond, but again, it was so, so real. But again, when I was little, I was scared. I didn't know how to cope with that. So again, I suppressed that. I was just like, "Oh, I will be rational. I will only be, operating from my mind. Give me the proof. That was the state I was in. But later on, I understood not only that it's possible and real, but it's also very easy and accessible. And I'm here to kind of bring that spiritual woo-woo stuff to people and show them how practical it can be. Like it's all there, it's all, present all of the time. And here is how you can use it.
Yeah, yeah. Since having that astral projection experience, now that you feel more comfortable with it, is that actually like a practice that you try? Yeah.
Well, no.
No?
I mean, sometimes I feel that my soul does that. For an example, if someone is in need and I cannot reach that person at the moment or something like that, my soul kind of just, jumps over and helps them out, or give them some, comforting words into their ear and just, moves away. But essentially, again, I'm not doing that so much intentionally because I love being in the present. I love being connected to what is and with my body as it feels in this moment right now, and all of the emotions and everything. So it can be practiced, but again, be careful, because each and every time we connect in that way with other people, it's important that we have their consent. It's like communicating like this. Like if you don't want to talk with me, or have any reason valid that you don't want to talk with me, that's fine. And when it comes to telepathy and astral projection, it's the same. Like maybe someone is not ready, maybe someone doesn't want that, and that's fine. So,
Yeah, I was going to say it.
Nice to ask for consent.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm terrible at interrupting. I apologize. I just get excited and I want to communicate.
Go
right?
ahead, go ahead. Yeah.
One of the things is, I could see it being kind of unsettling if somebody has the ability to read auras, and then people think of how guarded people are, and then it's like, oh man, I'm reading your aura. You got some bad stuff going on there or something. Like I could see why people would be
get out of my aura.
yeah, or especially with like telepathy or something, right? But it does seem like we kind of need each other, and because maybe something is coming to you that you don't understand. You're getting just a glimpse of something. It's good to actually have a community or people to verify or make some use of these things. Like I'm imagining somebody that's maybe very spiritually intuitive or has a lot of spiritual abilities, but they're kind of isolated, and they're like, having all these things happen, and they have nowhere to use it. You know what I mean? Like it does seem like humans need each other in this sense, right?
Yeah.
We actually got to get together and
also,
yeah,
and it's also important to know what is your intention. If your intention is to just show how spiritual you are, like, oh, I'm spiritual as fuck, see me reading your mind. I mean, that's not a very pure intention. It's coming from the... But I have set my intention a couple of years ago. I really want to connect with people and see their energy. If they are willing, if they're ready, if they're open with that, if we are communicating, right? If they're here because of that, like they come to me as a client, and then I will do that. And in my daily life, that ability is locked for me. I'm just not going to use it because that's my intention. Like I want to use it only when it's serving people, when it's serving me, when it's serving people. It's not about me. It's just I am the channel for that. So many times we do shit like that, and we kind of, just come from a very unpure intention. But if our intention is to serve people, to help them, to support them, then those abilities really wake up only when I'm doing therapy. Like when we are in the session, I just, I get tuned in, like you press the button and suddenly I'm like, I'm fully there, and things come up, and I'm just saying those things from the subconscious and seeing the energy, etc. But as I talk with you now, I don't have that ability. I don't want to have it because you didn't ask me, right? Like if you asked me, like, okay, see my trauma energy, we're like, okay, sure. Now we are just chatting, so I'm just in my human form.
No, we have a friend that's very spiritually intuitive and has abilities and does Reiki, and I've never felt uncomfortable with their ability to see things. Like maybe a little bit, but it hasn't stopped me from wanting to hear what they have to say, because you can sense when somebody's kind of coming from like love or some place that's like a good heart.
I was gonna ask you about spiritual influences. I know you've mentioned Teal Swan, but in terms of like your studies and people that you're fascinated with, like who have been maybe some of your mentors along the way that have kind of like guided you?
Oh, so many, so many. But my favorite ones, yes, definitely Teal Swan, and she helps me. Again, it's kind of a telepathic thing that really, when I'm going through something and the video comes up and it's just relevant, it's there and it helps me have a breakthrough. Kyle Cease is also one of my favorite teachers, and he's a really incredible, powerful person. Feel Good as well, Lori Ladd. When it comes to those YouTubers and influencer mentors, I have my own here, Christina Terzic. She was my she's a Serbian just like me. I'm an Indian and Serbian, but I live in Serbia. And she helped me go into regression therapy and learn how it works and really empowered me. And she was my main mentor here. So there are many, many wonderful people. Afterwards, I can post a comment with all of those names, and maybe people can have a research, because essentially when it comes to names and I have to say it, just my mind goes like, but they're like hundreds that I really, really love. But I will definitely recommend Kyle Cease if you didn't have an opportunity to listen to him. He is a very powerful, not only a teacher, but a human. He is doing a lot of inner work, and you can see that. So that's the people that I respect. When I see that someone is doing deep work on themselves, that's kind of, okay, you got me. Like, even if you're wrong in this one, but I can feel, again, that pure intention, and it just keeps me inspired. So yes, I will definitely post more about that later.
Cool. All right. The statue behind you. What's this? What's the statue?
Yeah, it's one of the Indian goddesses dancers. I do not know her name, but she is like this very feminine power person that is always supporting me. And I love wood and the element of wood. So I feel grounded when she's around. But since my father was Indian and I have a lot from that culture, and just, no, he was Punjabi, a Sikh, but essentially in Hindu traditions and also their cosmology, the way they knew about energy, about yoga, I using all of that in my work as well. And it's in my genes, I have to. So this is just, just one part of it. And mostly it's like a cosmic dance where you are connected to both earth and all of the other elements and just enjoying life. And she reminds me to relax, because I can get a little bit too serious. So when I look at her, I'm like, okay, dance, play. It's okay. Everything is a game.
And it's nice to watch too, actually, like different people demonstrate things. Like, I know you've done the dance thing, which is great. And I've seen other people that like their thing is song, like they've got this like angelic voice or something. Or I know somebody that gets a lot out of just like a sports related activity. Like they do it in a spiritual way. I don't want to say too much about it because it's very important to them, but
Yes.
it's just amazing the different ways that people can kind of meditate, really, like a dynamic meditation almost, or something.
Or trying to ground themselves or connect.
Ground themselves. Yeah. Ground themselves in reality, yeah.
Yes. And we all have so many abilities. We all have so many gifts. Now you mentioned singing, and I also love to sing and channel. And there are some people that really have this magic in their words, or the way they just move, or that's just beautiful. And I'm inviting everyone to just explore that. So if anyone tells you like, sports is not spiritual, it can definitely be, as you said. Everything is if you're coming from this mindful space and you're just present with yourself and you let yourself be in that flow, whatever comes out, it will be healing in a way, because we need that. We need people who are present with themselves. Like this podcast is super present and super flowy, and I just love it. And
I'll tell you the one that's tricky thing about this is because I don't stay in one state. There are days where I'm elevated and I feel rather holy, and then there are days when I feel rather earthly and a different thing. And I try to be I don't know. I try to convey the reality, the truth, or the reality of where I'm actually at, and it's real different. There's different parts of you warring with themselves,
And I think it's great when some people can go, you know, they can ascend sort of spiritually and then stay in some static, spiritually sound, peaceful, you know, rooted in reality state. But to me, it's like the reality is I'm kind of chaotic. And so I try to be honest about that. And, you know, I could see a video of something and respond to it many different ways, and when I respond to it, you're getting the version of me that's in the seat today that's responding to that, you know, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But don't get fooled, you know, don't get fooled by those people who are saying they are always peaceful. That's impossible. Like what we learn is to find alignment with ourselves. But as you said, life is dynamic, life is chaotic, you know, shit happen all the time. And we are here to experience the full spectrum of all of that. But essentially what can be practiced is what you mentioned, being grounded and being aware. But from time to time, I am complete mess, and that's completely human, and that's normal. But I know some ways how to bring myself back into alignment, and that's all that it is. Like when someone says, I'm fully spiritual, I'm always calm, you're like, oh, you're lying. You're lying, bitch.
Yeah.
Human.
Sometimes it's a little over the top.
Messy.
Yeah.
You cannot fool me.
Yeah. I like your like brash. You're not politically correct. You just say it as it is. I like that.
Real.
Una, I want to thank you so much for coming on the channel and sharing with us today about your YouTube channel and everything that you're doing. As one last thing, if you have any last words you'd like to say, I'd give you the ground to say it, and let our audience know, you know, where they can find you.
Well, what's coming up for me right now is because I struggled with that a lot, and it took me a longer time to ask for help. So I would just encourage people, if they need support, if they need help, you know, reach out. Don't be, you know, that there is shame to that when we are going through something messy or something painful. I was carrying a lot of shame. I was, you know, closing myself, going through a lot of shit alone. And there is no need. Like there's 8 billion of us, 9 or something like that on the planet. So there are many people who can support you. And it's my invitation to just, you know, find a way to speak what you're going through, and you will see that many people resonate with that. And if you need professional help, if you need someone who can guide you through the spiritual journey and to help you stay grounded and to help you stay present, of course, reach out and just, you know, can fill out this short quiz and we can get on the call. And it's my pleasure to just be of support. And of course, it's only for people who are willing to work on themselves. Like I cannot help someone who just wants instant solutions and just want me to press a button and everything is solved. Like, where's the fun in that? I don't do that. Like I cannot do that, and I won't do that. So, you know, people who are really open for growth and who want to learn about their emotions, to understand how to process emotions. Like each and every emotion is processed in a different way, and it's confusing at the beginning. Like, you know, you cannot approach sadness and anger in the same way. It doesn't work. So you need someone to just, you know, give you the map, and the map you will travel through. So I'm very, very open to all of that. I'm so grateful that you invited me. I enjoyed this so much. You guys are again so real, so, you know, just flowy and open, and it was such a joy, really.
Thank you so much for coming on here. I hope many people find your work. I think it's
Thank you. Likewise.
unique and awesome. All right, great show, guys.